Welcome to the Social Media Iceberg, Part 2. Need to include a bit of a content warning before this Iceberg video starts. There is some disturbing content in here, so viewer discretion is advised. I'd advise younger kids to maybe watch a different video. But if you're still here we go. Bottom of the Ice. An Intruder Image dating back to 2010. Alright, so this refers to a police sketch of a large-eyed man wearing a black hood. The image achieved prominence online several times, first shared on 4chan's TJ board in 2010, but you probably recognize it from its popularity in 2021 after it became mainstream in meme culture thanks to its use in the Mandela Catalog video series. To me, the image is kind of funny, but many people are genuinely really scared of it, and they're very unnerved by it. I feel like the fact that it's a police sketch kind of increases its fear factor. I'm curious as to know how this image makes you guys feel. Is it terrifying, is it funny, or somewhere in between? Let me know in the comments. A858. Alright, so this entry is referring to a very bizarre subreddit that posted exclusively very hard to crack puzzles, essentially. The actual subreddit was private and only a select few amount of people could actually view it. Eventually, a subreddit dedicated to solving it was created, which led to the original becoming open to the public. The subreddit was filled with seemingly random sets of letters and numbers that didn't make any sense until they were solved. Eventually, the actual creator of the subreddit didn't ask me anything on the server dedicated to solving the mystery. The reason they did this AMA was because the audience was getting frustrated. They claimed that they could not disclose the meaning of it and that it would only be disclosed when it ends or when it's discovered. This really fascinated users of the internet, so they continued to work on solving the mystery. 5 whole years had passed and multiple news sources had reported on it. In 2015, they ended the entire thing and the original account was deleted. Allegedly, the person doing it all was being paid by a company, and the reason that they stopped was because their pay was cut. R/858 is still pretty much a mystery and pretty fascinating in my opinion. Runescape Venezuela conflict. This entry is pretty bizarre. Alright, so Venezuela is a country that has an insane amount of inflation, with the minimum wage being only around the equivalent of $6. Now for this reason, living there and being able to actually make money is very hard. Interestingly enough, a lot of people in Venezuela have actually turned to the old online game Runescape to actually make some good money. In the game, you can mine gold. You can sell said gold for American money in cryptocurrency. This has helped so many Venezuelan people, and honestly, it's pretty amazing. Some people have made enough money to leave the country and find a better life, which I find really heartwarming. I never played RuneScape as a kid, but I do remember back when it was super popular, so seeing this is really surprising and very hopeful. Red Mist Lost Original Version. This entry is pretty interesting here. So I'm sure you're all at least relatively familiar with Red Mist, a creepypasta about Squidward ending his existence on Bikini Bottom. The story's a lost episode creepypasta, one of the most popular and iconic ones of all time. In this story, Squidward puts on a live show playing his clarinet, the audience hates it, and their eyes become bloody and hyper-realistic. Yeah, it didn't take much to scare people back in the early 2010s, but Squidward then does what I said earlier, and a shot of his red splattered body is shown. The story has a video to go along with it that claims to be the original lost episode. However, there are whispers on the internet that there used to be a scarier version of this video that more accurately portrays the story. This video is allegedly lost to media, so if you know about it or where to find it, let me know. To be clear, this isn't the one that you can find on YouTube or Dailymotion or anything. This whole situation is really interesting to me, and it reminds me of the original childhood trauma Iceberg in a way. I don't really know, it's just cool. There's a video of someone showing their younger cousins a Red Mist episode that they had edited themselves, so that's not actually it. But it's an alternate cut of the ones that we see usually. Just so you guys know, that's not what we're looking for. Madness Combat Fandom Drama. This entry is likely referring to the very toxic parts of the community for the Newgrounds game and web series Madness Combat, which has become very popular again in recent time. There's some weird amounts of toxicity within this community, where the fans of the game spread out in different Discord servers and they all kind of hate each other for some reason, like they have different communities, like sub-communities within the fandom. The game has a lot of new, younger fans thanks to its inclusion, mods of Friday Night Funkin', so this has brought a bunch of kids into the community, which only serves to make things more annoying and toxic. Something awful. Believe it or not, the majority of online internet culture is rooted in one old obscure website. Not 4chan, not MySpace, and not YouTube, but Something Awful. The website was created in 1999, was at first more of just a blog and quickly became much more. Eventually, it became a host to a lot of things that ended up becoming legendary. One notable thing that happened was a fight between a user of the website and the film director Uwe Boll, who you might know from his terrible video game movie adaptations. Something very, very iconic that came from this website was a certain character that was mentioned earlier in this iceberg. That's right, Slenderman. The original Slenderman image actually comes from this website. The website essentially became a forum that its members paid a small price to be a part of. It hosted events such as Photoshop Friday, which was a weekly event where users would make funny photoshopped images. There was also a ton of classic memes that come from this website, and the website has died off in recent times, so you can still visit it to this day. It's pretty interesting to see this website nowadays since it's really a time capsule of sorts. Crabzilla Hoax. Alright, I like this one. So back in 2014, this image coming from Bing Maps surfaced on the internet. This aerial view shows a massive crab by this bay. This would be the largest crab known to man, hence the name Crabzilla. Another picture was then posted of Crabzilla poking his head out while two little kids sit by the bay. The size of Crabzilla in this image is actually completely inaccurate to the original one, so what gives? Well, sorry to say, but it's fake. Turns out both pictures are photoshopped and there are no crabs that big. As far as we know. Facepunch. Facepunch is an independent video game studio that's been making games for over 17 and a half years. They're responsible for games like Chippy, Rust, and even Garry's Mod. Now that I tell you those games, I assume you're familiar with at least one of their games. Obviously, these games are very popular on social media, so that's why this is here. The Tales of Super John.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 1 of Tales of Super John, with me, your host, Super John.
Alright, so The Tales of Super John was a series on YouTube made by a charismatic teenage boy who you might recognize. Yeah, that's JonTron. In this series of Super John, he talks about a variety of different things in a very entertaining and endearing way. These videos seem to have just been recorded on a webcam, so the quality is pretty terrible, which adds to the charm. The channel these videos were uploaded on was called The Onion King, but all the videos have been taken down by John since. But 2 have been recovered. Seeing a young JonTron making these types of videos before his YouTube fame is really endearing, especially for myself, since he used to be my favorite YouTuber before, well, you know. Let Me Explain Studios was almost murdered. Let Me Explain Studios is a storytime animation YouTuber who's been making videos for a little while now. She made a video explaining how she had a crazy teacher when she was a teen who was incredibly mean and unfair to her and her fellow peers. This eventually led him to having a breakdown in front of her while one of her friends watched. She later learned that while working at another school years later, that teacher killed someone. She believes that if no one else was watching when he was breaking down on her, he may have killed her too. Atmospheric jellyfish sightings. Atmospheric jellyfish are a type of cryptid that is a floating jellyfish-like creature that people see in the sky. Some think that a lot of UFO sightings are actually sightings of these jellyfish creatures. But what actually are these things? Well, some rational explanations could be that these are either missile tests or satellites. Some people really believe that there could be floating jellyfish creatures up in our upper atmosphere, so that's why it's here. Aungs Hat. Aungs Hat is one of the earliest internet-based secret history conspiracy theories. Aungs Hat may be the first alternate reality game ever. If not the first, then definitely one of the first. In Burlington County, New Jersey, there's an area referred to as Aungs Hat. The reason this area is called Aungs Hat is unknown, but people have theories. Some think that there was an old man named Aung, whose lover smashed up and tore up his favorite hat and left it in disrepair in a tree. The hat hanging off the tree could be why this area is known as Aungs Hat. Some think that it's a misspelling of Aungs Hut, but we don't really know. As it stands, Aungs Hat is a pretty desolate area of land, especially being in a forest with nothing too interesting. However, a man by the name of Joseph Matheny claimed to have found papers dating back hundreds of years. One of the texts he found chronicles a group by the name of the Marsh Orthodox Church of America. One of the church's owners was a man by the name of Wally Ford. He supposedly owned land in Aungs Hat. He allegedly started something by the name of the Institute of Chaos Studies, which had a laboratory constructed in the forest where Aungs Hat is. These studies constructed in this laboratory were often using psychedelics and quantum physics. Crazy stuff here. There's a theory by the name of cognitive chaos. This theory claims that once someone is able to unlock the full capabilities of their brain, they can travel between universes, manipulate physical matter, and heal their body. Apparently, this study led to the creation of a machine in this laboratory. The machine was called the Egg, and allegedly enabled the user to travel between dimensions. Apparently, this machine worked, but was shut down by the shadow government. It's obvious that this story is fictional and was created by Joseph Matheny. He later wrote a book about this story, and he made an audiobook alongside it. This is kind of one of the first ARGs in a sense, since it spread throughout early internet. Chris Chan history. Oh god. Here we go! On February 24th, 1982, a boy by the name of Christopher Weston Chandler was born. Christopher was an autistic child who had a very hard early childhood after being abused by a babysitter. Christopher didn't speak until he was 7 years old, since that event was so traumatic to him. In 1989, Chris and his father Robert Chandler were at a local mall and saw an animatronic band of animal characters that would play music and interact with guests during the holidays. Chris was enamored by these characters to a point where it was a lot more than just a cool show. This band was special to Chris. The main character, Leonard Bearstein, was controlled by a person in another room so it could interact with guests and talk to them. The bear asked Christopher his name, and Chris answered. The bear misheard him and called him Christian. Christopher and his father, Robert Chandler, took this as a sign from God to legally have his name changed to Christian, which they did. Christian had a lot of trouble in school. There wasn't a lot of information about autism and ways to help children with it, alongside Chris's parents being reluctant to send him to a school for mentally challenged children, ended in a lot of stress and hardships for Chris. He had a lot of trouble making friends, and his one lady friend was paid by Chris's father to spend time with him. In 1992, Sega hosted a sweepstakes where viewers of the Sonic the Hedgehog TV show could enter the sweepstakes. Essentially, what you had to do was watch the cartoon and write everything down that Sonic said at the end of it. Many people signed up for it, but Christian was the lucky winner of it all. This marked a turning point in Chris's life. Chris felt important and lucky, one of a kind. It also sparked an unending devotion to Sonic the Hedgehog. His parents saw this as a really good example as to how good Chris was doing given his autism. By the time Chris was in high school, he had a very strong urge to find love. Chris wanted nothing more than to have a girlfriend of his very own. There was a group of girls in his high school that kind of protected him, and they were nice to him. He deemed them his gal pals. This is a term that would stick through the rest of Chris's life. On November 13th, 1996, Chris was daydreaming about a Sonic character by the name of Mighty the Armadillo when out of nowhere, a basketball hit him in the face. This inspired him to create Bionic the Hedgehog. Not because the character was robotic in any way, but because he plays basketball and is orange. Therefore, Basketball Sonic is Bionic. When Chris was in high school, he was given an assignment that couldn't have the use of copyrighted characters in it. This inspired him to mash Sonic and Pikachu together and create a new character known as Sonichu. Sonichu ended up becoming Chris's mascot after a while. He even created a medallion out of model magic that he wore all the time. In the year 2000, Chris created something that would change his life forever. Sonichu Issue 0, a webcomic featuring the titular Sonichu and his father, Christian Weston Chandler. Through college, Chris continued to long after a girlfriend over all else. This led him to hatch a plan. Chris created what he called an attraction sign. This attraction sign displayed Chris's age, race, pros, and cons about him, and most importantly, the fact that he was searching for a cute 18 to 20-year-old single female companion, 18 to 21 years of age, who does not have a boyfriend already, average to slender weight, white, lives in Charlottesville or Ruckersville, does not smoke, drink alcohol, and positive personality. It also states that if any men read the signs to mind their own business, and for all men with girlfriends, except married people and blacks, to go jump off a cliff. Yeah, can you imagine why this didn't work? Chris had a big thing about men having girlfriends, since every time Chris tried to flirt with a girl, they would tell them that she already had a boyfriend, so this led to Chris to only want boyfriend-free girls. Around this time, Chris himself ended up becoming the main character of Sonichu, and most of the stories just revolved around things that happened in Chris's life. The dean of Chris's college, Mary Lee Walsh, kept confiscating Chris's attraction signs and telling him that they wouldn't work and that they seemed to be solicitation. This angered Chris to a large extent, to the point where he added Mary Lee Walsh as a villain in Sonichu. All of Sonichu took place in a town known as Quickville. Quick being CWC as in Christian Weston Chandler. Chris got very involved in this fictional town, but more on that later. So how do people even know about Chris Chan, you might be wondering? How come so much of this information is public? Well, Chris Chan didn't become the most documented person in human history just by chance. One of the first times Chris was mentioned online was by a woman who worked at Chris's local mall. She essentially wrote a blog post talking about how awkward Chris was and how strange he was to her. In 2007, Chris Chan made a YouTube channel by the name of Sonichu. The seemingly normal thing probably didn't seem to be such a big deal for Chris at the time, but he was very wrong about that. At this point, Christian was a frequent visitor of an establishment by the name of the Game Place. At the Game Place, he made a friend, an actual friend. Her name was Megan Schroeder. Megan and Chris actually had some stuff in common, and they got along well. This was new for Chris, obviously. At this point, Sony was running a contest for the game Parappa the Rappa, by the name of Chop Chop Master Onion Showdown. For this challenge, you had to make a video singing to a song from the game, and you'd win a free vacation and 2 PlayStation Portables. Chris wanted to win this so he could take Megan on the trip and give her the PSP so she could fall in love with him, despite her not sharing the feelings that he had for her. Long story short, Chris Chan lost to a man named Adam Stackhouse, who he would grow to hate. On October 26, 2007, photos of Chris at the game place were posted to 4chan, and later, talk about Chris spread to the Something Awful forums from earlier in the Iceberg. A website known as the Quickie started, as a way to chronicle Chris Chan information since lots of people on the internet started to become fascinated with his life. In an attempt to mess with him, they started spreading fake information about his character. This infuriated Chris so much. He had thought of a way to counter it though, a way that is very confusing to most but made sense to him. Chris decided that he would do something called an information overload, which essentially was Chris posting a shit ton of true information about himself in an attempt to override all the fake information. The problem is Chris used a lot of embarrassing information for some reason and posted some explicit drawings as well. There's one specifically of Chris performing a sexual act on an unknown woman. This woman ended up being Megan. Yeah, this poor girl. She figured out about it and got very mad at Chris for this. He claimed that he made it because he had to channel that energy somewhere and he didn't want to come out and he do something stupid to her. What he meant by that is still unknown, but the implications are really sinister. Needless to say, Megan was disgusted and broke it off with Chris permanently. After this, Chris Chan continued to pick up more attention online, the vast majority of which being negative attention. People began to troll Chris Chan in many different ways. At first it was kind of simple, but increasingly became more and more brutal. A group of these said trolls created a fictional woman that was essentially a character that they all played in an attempt to get Chris to fall in love with her. This character was named Blanca Weiss, a joke about Chris's racism towards any woman that weren't white. To make it short, the trolls used Blanca to get naked pictures of Chris and access his online accounts and passwords and stuff like that. Chris and Blanca broke it off and he continued to talk with other catfishes, and often these fictional women were killed off by the trolls whenever it got stale to Chris. Chris would often add these fake women to his comic book as characters. This further involved the trolls in the history of Chris Chan. A very cruel and unfortunate thing happened between Chris and Blanca. After Blanca convinced Chris to send her this iconic and beloved Sanju medallion that Chris wore all the time, a troll sent back a video of him destroying the medallion in a bunch of really cruel ways. This, in my opinion, was one of the first times the trolls just took it way too far. Not that the rest of it was okay, but this just really pushed it. And unfortunately, this was not the last of the brutality. A bunch of other trolling attempts happened, like one where someone pretended to be Shigeru Miyamoto who wanted to make a Sonic game for Nintendo. Obviously, this wasn't true, but Chris bought it. Eventually, one of the most iconic trolls reared his classic head.
Captain's log. Stardate, June 21st, 2009. My name is Christian Weston Chandler.
A guy who made videos doing a really good Chris Chan impression ended up being found by trolls and sent to Chris. Chris believed that the man was actually an imposter trying to steal his identity and Sonichu. The imposter, who's known as Liquid Chris, as a reference to the Metal Gear Solid games, played into this and started messing with Chris himself. This led to some really entertaining things between the two of them. Chris genuinely believed that Liquid was trying to steal his characters and profit from them. Chris decided a way to settle this and find out who was and wasn't the real Christian Weston Chandler. Chris decided they would do something known as the Sing Star Challenge, which is pretty much a karaoke challenge. Chris Chan wrote a song parody by the name of So Want a Cute Girl, which is a parody of I Want It That Way, which is as sad as it sounds. Liquid covered it beautifully on an actual guitar. The main thing about Liquid Chris is that he was really everything Chris Chan had ever wanted to be. He was successful, attractive, talented, had a girlfriend, and was respected. And was just generally a better Chris Chan. Do you get it yet? Do you? This is a very long story, and this isn't even halfway done, but for the sake of the video, I'll just relay some more relevant information. In 2014, Chris Chan transitioned from male to female. I'll be referring to Chris with female pronouns from now on. People debate whether or not Chris Chan is really a part of the trans community, but it's really not my place to comment on that. Since 2014, she'd been convinced that all of her characters in Quickville were all real and indeed existed in another universe that could be accessed. Chris Chan became delusional and genuinely believed that every character ever conceived was a part of this dimension. In 2021, Chris Chan was on a call with a woman, and she essentially prompted Chris to talk about, well, what she'd been doing recently. And it turns out that Chris had been doing really unspeakable things to her mother, Barbara. This ended in Chris Chan being arrested, and prison's the only place she'll be for the foreseeable future. The story ended in absolute tragedy. It completely destroys any pity I once had for Chris, and the entire situation is completely sickening. What's crazy is the reason the Chris Chan story is so interesting to me is because I actually walked right by her at a convention in 2017. Damn right. I went to BronyCon as a 12-year-old and was at the same panel that this video was taken from. I'd known very little about Chris Chan outside of the general concept of Sonichu, so I didn't know about Chris's transition, which made me think that this person was just someone wearing a medallion as a joke. After Chris spoke on the panel, I stood up to ask a question, and Chris and I walked down the same aisle opposite to each other. After this moment, I was hooked and learned all about Chris with a few documentaries on YouTube. Since then, I've been completely fascinated with the story and have been keeping up with everything since. If you want a full Chris Chan lore documentary video from me, let me know, and honestly, I think it would make a pretty good video. Alright, if you're still watching, let's move on to the next layer of the iceberg. Cold waters. Pre-www.social media. This entry is referring to the idea that there could be a primitive form of social media before www. Which is the format that's used by almost every website on the surface web. World Wide Web was made public domain in 1993, so it's very unlikely that social media platforms existed, but what if there was something that even barely resembled the modern social media platforms of today? These long-lost websites would have had really small user bases, since not many people were using the internet back before 1993. The contents of these hypothetical websites could either be innocent, or charming, or potentially terrifying and disturbing. What could be on a website like this so long ago? Well, we may never know. TikTok animal rescue animal abuse rings. Just want to give a trigger warning for some animal abuse topics. I'm not going to show anything, but the things this entry are referring to are really disturbing. On TikTok and YouTube, there are channels that claim to show the people who own the account saving animals who are in dangerous and deadly situations. These videos do really well since people are interested in seeing cute animals be rescued from terrible situations. Thing is, the people behind these videos are the ones putting the animals in this danger. The reason this is labeled as an abuse ring is because there will be multiple channels run by the same person, putting the same animals in danger and profiting off of it. It's truly evil and sickening, and I hope that everyone involved in making those videos goes to hell. If you see a channel like this, report it. TikTok is responsible for OnlyFans' success. So I'm sure you've all heard of OnlyFans in the past, right? Well, that platform really blew up, and so quickly. But why? Well, some think that TikTok's responsible, and here's why. People on TikTok will often use the platform to promote their OnlyFans. It's pretty easy to get tons of views on TikTok, so it makes promoting OnlyFans way easier than by other means. People will post videos of themselves that are kind of more safe for work previews of their work on OnlyFans, let's just say. And there are many lonely men out there, so there you go. Facebook security breach 2021. This entry is exactly what it sounds like. In 2021, hackers stole 533 million Facebook users' phone numbers and personal data, full names, locations, email addresses, and biographical information. The hackers who stole this information could use all of it to impersonate people and commit fraud. This wasn't even the first time that this happened with Facebook. People trust Facebook, and they should never have something like this happen to them. It's scary. 4chan got a terrorist base bombed. Yeah, they did. In 2016, Syrian terrorists had posted videos of their training on YouTube. These were found by people on 4chan who used Google Earth to find out where they were and where their base was. An Anon had contact with Russian military personnel and shared all the coordinates and got the base airstriked. This isn't the first time that 4chan users have found the locations of people, but as far as I know, it's the first time that they've got them bombed. Slenderman stabbings. On May 31st, 2014, an awful tragedy struck when a young girl was stabbed multiple times by her closest friend. But why? Morgan Geyser and Peyton Leutner were best friends. Peyton saw Morgan sitting alone at lunch one day and decided to sit next to her, and the rest was history. They became really close over the years and had a really sweet friendship. Morgan then became friends with Anissa Wire, and they became fans of creepypasta. This was back when creepypastas were at their prime, so the community around them was still really active. Morgan and Anissa ended up believing that if they killed a person, they could become proxies for Slenderman, and thought that by being these servants to Slenderman, they believed that he would take them to the Slender Mansion, which was a place where all the creepypasta characters lived. The girls believed it all. It came to the point where the girls planned to kill Peyton so Slenderman would accept them. Unfortunately, after a birthday party and sleepover, the girls decided to put their plan into action and meet Slenderman. They lured Peyton out into the woods and tried to get her to lay in dirt and cover herself in dirt and sticks. Peyton could tell that something was wrong, so she didn't go along with their requests. Unfortunately, they decided it was time to go out with their plan. Peyton was stabbed by Morgan multiple times while Anissa watched. Eventually, the girls ran off, thinking that Peyton had passed away. Luckily, Peyton survived and mustered up the strength to move herself to a place where she could be found. She was found and rescued by a biker who called an ambulance and got her to safety. Morgan and Anissa were arrested and tried as adults. They were both found not guilty by means of mental disease and were both put in mental hospitals. Turns out, Morgan is schizophrenic and has been taking medication since, which helps explain why she truly believed that Slender Man was real. She would see him in dreams and just generally in her life. As for Anissa, she was in the mental institution for 7 years and she was released early and will be under supervision until the age of 37. This story is such an incredibly tragic and bizarre one, and the fact that any of this happened at all is incredibly unfortunate and saddening. The fact that Peyton is alive and going strong is truly inspiring and good. There's something haunting about this story, since back when this all happened, I was also a little kid at a similar age, being obsessed with creepypasta and all the characters involved with it, so it all really hits close to home. The Slender Man stabbings is now one of the most famous internet-related crimes out there, and serves as a chilling tale for parents and what their children view online. Russia using social media for misinformation. The entry name says it all. In recent years, and especially through 2022, Russia has been using social media to try and influence the opinions of the West. Russia's been using social media to try and influence the opinions of people in the West, and has really picked up since the invasion of Ukraine. Accounts on social media have been trying to influence the narrative on Russia's actions in an attempt for them to be looked at more favorably. They've been using TikTok influencers to try and make the invasion look like a good thing, and it turns out most of the influencers doing this are reading off of a very similar script to one another, which is scary. My message to everyone watching this video is to stay vigilant. Don't listen to everything you hear on social media and try to cross-check things you hear, especially if it's something you'll be deriving a strong opinion on. Only you can help stop the spread of information. Think for yourself. If something seems incorrect, dig a little deeper because you might be being lied to. Cocomelon harms mental development. Cocomelon is the #1 largest children's YouTube channel out there. Most people born in the 2000s probably aren't aware of this channel's size, but those with baby siblings and modern parents certainly know the length of this channel, and unfortunately, the mental effects on the children who view their content. Cocomelon is not good for children in multiple ways. Generally, children's content can be a little mindless. You look at Gen Z's early childhood shows like Teletubbies and Booba, and it might seem pretty strange and mindless, but those were different. Cocomelon's content is made specifically to effectively suck all of a kid's attention and make them hooked. The way the videos are shot, the amount of cuts and camera movement in the videos, and bright colors and earworm songs all work to make a kid obsessed with Cocomelon's content. This might sound crazy, but it's true. Children are actually becoming addicted to this content, which is very good for Cocomelon, since the sound of their intro alone makes these kids act like sleeper agents. Part of what makes these videos so captivating and overstimulating is actually the way that they're cut and the length of the shots. Yeah, it may sound strange, but it's true. A YouTuber named Savantix made a video comparing the shot length of Cocomelon compared to other animated content. The longest shot in the majority of Cocomelon videos was only around 6 seconds long, compared to the other shows, including a high-energy action show known as Arcane, which had longer shots than Cocomelon despite it being a high-energy action show, and having a completely different genre and demographic, being older kids and teenagers. If you want to learn more about this comparison, I'd highly recommend Savantix's video. Cocomelon has essentially ruined a lot of toddlers' attention spans, since after watching tons of Cocomelon, everything else seems slow and uninteresting to these poor kids, since normal children's content isn't designed to be this overstimulating. If anyone watching this is a parent, older sibling, nanny, older cousin, anything, please don't let the kids around you watch this. Show them some actual TV programming made for kids. Hell, just let them watch some Steve or Joe era Blue's Clues, put on some Sesame Street, anything. We don't know what the effects of this content will be on the minds of these children in the future, but it really isn't looking good. This is our next generation, the people who will be leading the world in the future, so just think about that for a second. TikTok is a Chinese cyber weapon. This isn't even a theory or some out there conspiracy, it's just true. TikTok is essentially spyware that the Chinese government is using to collect as much data as possible from every single one of its users. Don't believe me? Well, did you know that TikTok collects every single bit of data that it can from you? The fact is, by having TikTok on your phone, you are consensually letting them access all of your photos, keystrokes, search history, text conversation history, your phone's hardware details, information on the other apps that you use, your location at all times, and many, many more terrifying details. TikTok's inherent design has been found to be psychologically damaging to those who use it. It lowers the attention span of its users and uses really clever psychological tricks to get them all hooked. TikTok uses similar strategies to casinos and how they get people to stay on the app for hours and hours, just swiping, doing the same motion there for hours, being fed a constant loop of dopamine-filled brainless content. TikTok is required to send all of its data directly to the CCP. All of it. If that's not scary to you, then it should be. The Chinese government is not good, and it doesn't like America all that much. Having so much data is an incredibly bad thing, so much to the point where the US Army forbids soldiers and officers and any military personnel from having TikTok installed on their phones because of the security threat. This is so bad that the Indian government pulled a full-on ban on TikTok because it, quote, posed a threat to the sovereignty and integrity of India. Yeah, if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. TikTok is not some innocent social media platform for teenagers. It's a cyber weapon. TikTok is terrifying, and I hope that hearing the information in this video will at least help some people realize the reality of this app. Hillary Clinton email scandal. Back in 2016, one of the main things going against presidential candidate Hillary Clinton was a scandal regarding tons of emails that she had deleted. She wiped thousands of emails clean, and I don't really want to get political here, but this is definitely not a good look for Clinton, and she was justifiably criticized for it. But yeah, maybe she was hiding something, maybe she wasn't, but the Clintons aren't exactly the most trustworthy. Where deleted content goes. A question I'm sure we've all asked before is, where does deleted content go? Well, the answer is actually pretty interesting. So I imagine we all hope deleted content just goes away. You know, it's deleted forever. Well, that's not exactly the case. When it comes to stuff that you delete off your computer, it's still recoverable, even when you empty your trash can. So can your files be truly deleted? Well, yes, eventually. See, when you delete a file, you don't actually delete it. Instead, it basically just tells your hard drive that the space that it used to take up can now be overwritten by something new. So basically, until something new takes the space of it, the original file can still be recovered. Pretty interesting and a weird thing to have in the back of your mind. Metaverse will end freedom. The metaverse could be the end of our freedom. If our second reality becomes what it sets out to be and truly succeeds and takes over our work, shopping, concerts, events, social lives, and online presence, it could truly end freedom as we know it. Having one power-hungry man like Mark Zuckerberg control over the entire platform is a terrifying thought. Essentially, freedom is only as free as one's technological overlords allow it to be. There are people getting married in the metaverse, and businesses are starting to heavily incorporate into their workplace. The metaverse, like all Facebook products, will gather every single bit of information that it can. Through Oculus, Facebook already has access to everything you do on there. Every game you play, how long you play the game for, your surroundings. Hell, the Oculus is always online as long as it's plugged in. The thing is constantly reporting back to Facebook, which is pretty scary alone. I personally do not want to join the metaverse, even if it really becomes a thing. I refuse to buy a pair of NFT shoes. I refuse to replace real social interaction with some boo-boo ass VR interaction. You'll find me dead before I find love in the metaverse. Facebook really is an evil company. I know it's kind of hard to escape. I mean, I myself have an Instagram and an Oculus, so I guess I'm kind of part of the problem. But to me, it's still worth it to speak out about Facebook. Praise thought. If the metaverse truly takes over like Mark wants, it could end freedom as we know it. Alright everyone, that wraps it up for the social media iceberg, fully explained. Got a little darker there at the end, the second part got on the creepier side, and that's how we like it here, kind of returning to that form of content because that's what I feel works best on this channel. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know because it was a labor of love. If you didn't know about Chris Chan before this, I sincerely apologize. You know, you could have lived your whole life without all that information. And for those who are interested, I may have just started a whole ass rabbit hole for you guys because there's a lot of Chris Chan stuff out there. But yeah, this was a pretty fun video to make. Lots of creative concepts and fun stuff. I'm kind of curious as to what you guys want the future of this channel to be. Like, do you guys want it to be creepy, like, going forward? Or more on the lighter side with the nostalgia stuff and in the first half of this social media iceberg? I don't know, because I genuinely, I like the creepier side of things. I think that's the most fun. but I want to know what you guys think. I'm officially back. Took a bit of a hiatus there. Not an official one, but I just kind of ignored my channel for a little while there, but not anymore. I am back. So expect a lot more content from me. Also, what do you guys think of this, my door here? It's a lot cooler now. It used to just be like an old like big paper drawing. Now we got a bunch of stuff. I want to see anyone in the comments who can recognize everything that you see here. I will rip my heart out and put it right on your comment, because there's a lot of obscure kind of 2000s-y stuff on here, so I'll be surprised if someone can name everything. There's Jar Jar Binks right there. That's a freebie right there. This is the kind of video where I want to hear a lot of feedback for it, so if you've got something to say about it, if you enjoyed it, if you hated it, please let me know, because yeah, I want to know. It genuinely, all the feedback is really important to me. And also, it's great for the comments section because that boosts the algorithm. So more importantly, I want to know what you're thinking, but it also helps. If you've got any requests for me to do any certain type of videos that you're interested in, please let me know, because I would love to hear them. Honestly, might do something. Hell, even if you are another YouTuber and you want to collaborate, I'm always open. I'm always down, so let me know. Just want to give a big thank you to everyone watching this for watching this, because I appreciate you. If you made it all the way down here to the end of this video, good job. Thank you. But yeah, I think that's it for me for now, right? So I've been your favorite emo Flynn Rider, or Latin Roderick Heffley, signing out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you all for watching very much. It's a heart.